caught Thomas Massie, who agree with him or disagree with him. The guy's consistent. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with him on, but I genuinely think he's a genuine person. And I think he's out there trying to do what he thinks is right. And so I happened to catch him on Dave Smith's podcast talking about this kill switch provision. And basically, he'll explain it. But to sum up real quick, they were passing a bill, and it had a provision about new automobiles containing a kill switch that would allow, an authority source to shut your car off remotely if you are quote unquote impaired. I always do that. I always put the wrong hand up, and it's like behind my nice little screen right here, my Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert style news display. Anyway, let's watch this clip from Dave Smith, because they cover a lot of interesting stuff, and I thought it was, like I said, it made me hopeful, because it seems like people are starting to understand that the labels and the paradigm of left and right is no longer a relevant lens to see political debates through, because the right is left, left is right, up is down, black is white. You know the deal. But let's watch this real quick.
Was against me in that primary, then he was for me in my last.
So let me set this up a little bit too. At the outset here, he's talking about Donald Trump, because Massie is supporting DeSantis for the Republican primary nomination, but he's very honest here. And I think this is actually a very important little thing for people who hate Trump to hear, because this is telling of how Trump is. If you're with him on something, he loves you and he praises you. But if you're against him, he calls you every name he can think of. And he did this to Thomas Massie. So listen.
Primary. And he called me a first-rate defender of the Constitution in my last primary. So we'll see where he ends up in this primary. But the thing about it is,
hold on, let me rewind that.
Okay, he was against me in that primary. Then he was for me in my last primary. And he called me a first-rate defender of the Constitution in my last primary. So we'll see where he ends up in this primary. But the thing about it is, Dave, I don't care what people say. I'm just like, I'm 10 years into this congressional experiment for myself, running for office and just trying to vote my conscience for the whole 10 years. And it's worked out for me so far. I've had people against me who are no longer here in Congress. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, Max, donated to my primary opponent. And guess what? I'm here and they're not. So I just don't worry about this stuff too much.
Yeah, I think you're kind of the last Ron Paulian in Congress in that sense, that it does seem like you're just like, I'm going to vote my conscience. The chips will fall where they may, and that's that. So I really do. We love that about you. Quickly before you go here, there's a couple other things that I wanted to address with you. A couple other these topics that you've been bringing up. So what was this? You had proposed an amendment to not enforce car companies for the cars. What's the term I'm looking for here? A kill switch for cars. Explain this to me and my audience, because I do not understand this at all, but it scares me.
Yeah, very quickly. In 2021, as part of that big infrastructure package, the Democrats got inserted into a bill that, frankly, most of them probably didn't read, because they were disputing me in the debate on the floor of the House that this provision was even in law, and I had to read the law to them. They got a provision inserted that says by 2026, every auto manufacturer has to have an automated kill switch in the car that basically monitors your driving and determines if you're impaired, not drunk, not under the influence, but impaired. And if you're impaired, it will automatically disable your car. And so that's a good thing to point out. The language in these bills is important, because this is a legalese. It's a law. So if they say impaired, that could mean literally anything. Well, he read some misinformation online and his thinking was impaired, so he had to shut his car down. You see how that could get real out of hand. The funding process, when we were still trying to do the 12 bills, by the way, we'd given up on the 12 bills. But when we were still doing the 12 bills, I was able to offer an amendment to defund this kill switch provision. And I thought it would sail through. I actually thought they would let it go on a voice vote. I was having to debate with my staff, should I ask for a recorded vote if they let this pass on a voice vote? And I get there, not only did they not let it pass and they asked for a recorded vote, there were over a dozen Republicans who voted against this amendment. They voted to keep like the nanny state in place, to expand the nanny state, over a dozen Republicans. They actually had 2 Democrats vote with me. And okay, I hope it looks like you're sitting down. So I will tell you who one of these 2 Democrats was. It was AOC, voted to defund the kill switch amendment. And what's funny is she asked me about it, and she was concerned about civil liberties. And I said, I have exactly the same concerns. And I told her, here's who will attack you, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So I want you to go into this knowing what you're getting into. Then I said, oh, by the way, their AIPAC's running $90,000 of ads in my district saying that I always vote with you. It's about time you vote with me once on a provision. So that she actually voted to defund the kill switch. I thought that was great.
Well, good for her. She should. We make fun of her when she's wrong about stuff, but she should get credit for the things she's good on. And I will also give her.
Listen to this. This was actually really cool of Dave Smith to say.
Credit for, the squad types might go say some things that me or you wouldn't agree with about the Israel war, but man, there is some courage it takes right now to kind of stand up against when the war drums start beating. It gets a lot of people to just kind of go along with it because, you don't want to be called all the names that you're going to get called if you oppose it. So I credit
100.
everybody up there who is at least trying to be somewhat sane during all of this.
Somewhat consistent. Yeah. I did. They voted twice to censure Rashida Tlaib for things that she said, not for things that she did, but for things that she said. And I voted against both of those resolutions to censure her because, look, Dave, that could be me. When I went against the CARES Act, I was the only one who would stand up and say this is going to cause inflation and shortages. Shutting down our government is going to cause, our country is going to cause more harm than good. And I'll tell you what, if they could have censured me, if they had time to do it that day, they would have got probably nearly unanimous vote on that.
Yeah, no, it's something that is definitely something to always keep in mind. All right, well, Congressman,
So I just wanted to highlight that because, I give AOC a lot of shit. And the reason progressives and Bernie people give AOC so much shit is because she had so much promise. There's a clip of her in my intro. We're going to bring the ruckus to the Democratic Party. And then she got into Congress and was like, oh, yes, Mama Bear Pelosi, going to do the cover of Vogue with her, And so I think that's why there's a little bit higher level of criticism of her. Plus, she's very high profile. She's one of the most, in the media of the squad. But when she does something like that and respects civil liberties and stuff like that and works with someone from the other side and signs on to that, obviously it didn't pass, but I want to shout her out for that because, I'm gonna criticize her harshly when she does stupid shit, which she does a lot. But when she's in the right lane, metaphor, pun not intended, I want to call her out and give her credit for it. So